We're coming in hot with inspiring guests, witty banter, and colorful commentary for today's veterans and military community. This is the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
They call me crazy cause I'm facing all my giants. They try to scare me into thinking I can fight it. They tell me I should never even think of trying. But that's just me, I'm gonna live out in defiance.
Oh, Alphas. Wow. This is a day. You're still seeing OGAG over there. I'm now, because this is dropping on 7-Eleven, and I'm now thinking of our other original host and the things he would eat from 7-Eleven. I'm now picturing old hot dogs rolling on there, and they're about to throw them away. And I can see Mark C.B. going, whoa. You're not going to throw that away, are you? And then getting them in a discount and eating them, and then wondering why his tummy hurts later. That's Mark C.B. I mean, that's memories. I'm a little choked up right now.
Like, he's the man who would walk into a gas station and be like, ooh, an egg sandwich? I might mess around with that.
Or sushi from anywhere.
I took the crispy hot dog in the back.
He would take sushi from a cart on the street in the sun of summer. There should be a game reality show based on, and Mark C.B. should be the judge and the one who issues the challenges of what they eat. He ate sushi from a Mexican gas station. # true story. Okay.
It's great. Get into it, folks.
We love our national judge advocate. I just wouldn't love to eat what he eats. I just couldn't. I can't do it. Speaking of toxic exposure, I think you have a story for us.
Deadline looms for vets to get retroactive toxic exposure benefits, according to militarytimes.com. Veteran Affairs officials are planning a public awareness blitz over the course of July and so forth to get as many individuals as possible to sign up for new military toxic exposure benefits ahead of the August deadline for retroactive payouts. As we all may know, the PACT Act was approved by lawmakers last summer, and the deadline to apply for such benefits is coming up soon. Later in the article, it goes on to say, since the PACT Act was signed into law on August 10, 2022, more than 660,000 veterans have applied for benefits, and the department has paid out more than $1.4 billion. Under federal law, veterans who apply for the PACT Act payouts within a year of the bill signing are potentially eligible for retroactive payments back to that date. Huge. My goodness. But veterans who enroll after August 9th, 2023 will only receive payouts back to their date of filing. Very clear distinction there. So the Veterans Affairs official said that it is of the utmost importance for the July outreach push. By filing ahead of the August 9th deadline instead of after it, veterans who are awarded toxic exposure disability benefits could get tens of thousands of dollars more in payouts. Oh, Jeff, that's wild.
It is wild. I do think, and just so we're clear, when we were reading through this before the show, it was brought up that the article itself doesn't say what Vet Fest is. Vet Fest is really, it's a series of events they're going to be doing around the country, and to kind of get people fired up about doing this, because we all know you can put the best programs out there, but the word doesn't get around to everybody who word needs to get around to. And when people don't get the word, they don't get the information, they cannot act. If they cannot act, they are doing a disservice. They're not doing a disservice to themselves. A disservice is happening to them because they don't know to act. So these vet fests are really just, and it's a whimsical name, but it's a very serious topic. So if you hear about Vet Fest and you haven't applied for the PACT Act and you think you might be eligible, go there to get hands-on help. But you can also go online and get this done. But the main thing is you have less than a month now. this show airs on the 11th of July. You have until, was it the 9th of August? You have until the 9th of August to get this done. Because if you get it done by the 9th of August, you get it done by the signing of the bill, the law. No, you don't get it done. You get retroactive payments. That's where those tens of thousands lost can be regained. Otherwise, it's just a typical claim, and it's when you file the claim, that's when your retroactive payments would start, however long it takes them from that day. So get it done. That's all. Yep. That's my opinion, is if you're eligible, get it done now. And as a matter of fact, stop listening and go get it done.
Absolutely. Make sure you go check out the VA websites. VA is hosting events throughout July, right? You've got Summer Vets Fest. There's going to be at least an event in every single state. Obviously more than 50 events at large. There's Puerto Rico District of Columbia events. Will likely be of casual summer gathering, is kind of what the description on VA News is saying. And in compliments to this article on military.com is, many will have, feature food, music, and the VA staff will be ready to help veterans apply for the PACT Act related benefits or submit an intent to file, enroll in VA healthcare, get screened for toxic exposures, and more. So there are locations, we'll be sure to have those in the show notes for dates and times for the events where you can go and you can see what works for you. And things will probably pop up as Summer Vets Fest events are finalized. So it's really important that you go and do this.
All right, so get there. You'll be able to, I'm being told we should talk about service officers, and that's true. If you're at Vet Fest, the VA's people will be able to help you. If you can't get there, talk to your service officer in your post and get and have them refer you to an actual claims capable service officer to get that done. Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot on toxic exposure, but I feel like it's important, and people need to, before it gets, and it's not about if you're sick right now, always you need to file, so the presumptives will be presumed for you later. Okay. And yep. Another thing that's super important is our guest.
Yes.
Yeah. Today we'll be joined by HireMilitary founder and CEO Mike Quinn. We're going to talk a little military transition, a little entrepreneurship, a little networking, and even a little H word. Let me try to pronounce this. A little humility. I've heard of that word. I'm going to look it up when we get off the show here today. We're going to be right back with Mike right after the break.
Veterans, did you know that hearing loss and tinnitus are the top service-connected disabilities, and that untreated hearing loss frequently results in social isolation and loneliness? At the beginning of May, Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy presented his framework for a national strategy to advance social connection, expressing his commitment to combating the significant health consequences of isolation and loneliness. Staying connected is on everyone's mind, and a lack of connection can be exacerbated when someone experiences hearing loss. The Heroes with Hearing Loss program, provided by Hamilton Captel, supports veterans facing the challenges of hearing loss by sharing solutions that keep us connected. And now the new Heroes mobile Captel app for iOS and Android devices is available, allowing veterans with hearing loss to read captions of mobile calls. Download the Heroes mobile Captel app at no cost and experience the same feature-rich captioned telephone service that Hamilton Captel customers have relied on for years. Just search for Heroes Mobile Captel in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store today. For more information, including eligibility requirements, visit heroeswithhearingloss.org.
Alphas. Here we are today, back from break. I hope you're well rested, because I think we're going to go along on a ride with Mike Quinn. He was a sergeant major. I never spoke to sergeant majors unless I was in trouble, so I'm feeling a little anxious today. But I'm going to get through it, because I feel like he's going to have a lot to teach us. And little secret here, be prepared, because apparently Mike and Ashley know each other, and you know how.
Yay! I'm so excited.
And
Yay.
we're off to the races. Mike, or is it Mike or Michael?
Mike to people I know.
Is that me now?
It is. We met.
All
We
right,
talked
Mike.
about AI stresses.
Yeah.
We discussed how you got your illegal whoopee. We're good.
Yeah,
I got my whoopee
that's
legally.
right. Mm.
We won't talk about ethically, but legally I got it. Okay.
It was in his network, which will lead us into our first question. Right.
All right. So thanks for joining us today. You're a busy guy. You've got a lot going on with a company and advocacy and all that, which I'm assuming we're going to get into. So thanks for being here. I don't get to ask the first question. You get to go to the friendly confines of that other square over there with Ashley Marie, or as we call her, OGAG.
Mm.
All right. So Ashley, go ahead. You got the first question.
Well, I'm gonna erase the box lines because these days I'm not letting anybody box me in. So note for the show notes too. Anyway, I digress. Mike,
We have
welcome.
weird
We're getting weird energy right now. It's about to get real.
therapy-based philosophy.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm doing a lot of work on myself. Thanks, Jeff. But Mike, back to you. So Mike, you retired from the U.S. Army in 2017. You have faced, challenges in the private sector. You're now own and operate your own business, your own company, right? You are a 2-time LinkedIn top voice. You have done some phenomenal things. I've had an opportunity to meet you in the space. Watching you grow has been a journey, and I'm so happy I've been able to just watch it, right? But to lead off, I want to start talking about transition, misconceptions about transition, and I want to get into the root of why transition is hard and why some people are either using this as an opportunity as a trampoline, or they're still kind of, treading water.
And some are diving to the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's be real. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, a lot of it comes down to, what gets us to where we were in the military. So Jeff, you said I was a sergeant major. You never talked to any sergeant major unless you were in trouble. You don't stumble into getting to be a sergeant major. So there's got to be a certain amount of confidence, a lot of competence, hard work. But from the day you decide you want to get to that level, like what it's going to take to get there. And it takes a lot of work. And the whole way, you're basically the best in your unit at each step of the way. So you're the best platoon sergeant, you're the best operations sergeant, you're the best first sergeant. And because there's only so many spots to get along. And then even when you make sergeant major, there's levels of sergeant major and you know what you have to do to get there. And so for a lot of us that are, transitioning, especially the retirees, you've been at the top, near the top. You've been in the C-suite. I was in the C-suite for the C-suite for the military. Everywhere I went as a sergeant major, I was instantly recognized either by my rank or by my name. And there was deference there whenever I spoke. There was instant credibility when I walked into a room and spoke. And I remember working on my first resume, and I was so proud of that first bullet, which was I lead the operations for 17,000 people in 45 countries. Because of course we take credit for everything in the organization. But that is how we, counted success, 24 years of service, 17,000 people in 45 countries. I'm a big deal. None of that exists out here. Not only do we count experience differently, we don't count entire careers, we count experience doing certain things. We count numbers differently out here. Like I take credit in the Army for everything in my organization. Out here, you take credit for your direct reports and what they do, right? And I say direct reports intentionally because in the military, we say subordinate. And out here, that's a bad word. And so what happens is you go to get out And if you get out thinking that you're going to get your next career and it's going to be a lateral move or an upward move based solely on what you've done, that's where you start to tread water or hit the bottom. And so what it took was, for me, was almost a literal punch in the gut at my first job fair, that I went fully prepared, and I'm a details guy. So I had my best suit, practiced my elevator pitch, did research on 41 companies, had given a tailored resume I worked with a lot of people on. It was a 2-page resume, and went to a job fair and spent six hours talking to 41 employers, and they all were not a shred of interest. Everyone was getting interviews but me. They just glanced at my resume, circled my clearance, threw it on a pile, and said, check our careers page and apply online. And I think that the difference maker for me was 2 things. One, I didn't blame them, right? I didn't say companies aren't hiring veterans. I said, well, crap, I'm doing something wrong. What do I need to do differently? Because I know I'm one of the best at whatever I choose to do. What do I need to do differently so that they do want to be interested in me? And then 2, how do I get access to that information? How do I find people that can open doors for me, or that can become mentors and all that? And that was recruiter number 40 that I nagged for follow-up information, said connect with me on LinkedIn. And so when we talk about the transition, I'm going to be honest, the hardest part of it is figuring out what you want to do. And then understanding, when you figure out what you want to do, understanding what is important to that role, to that job. What do they do every day? What are their biggest challenges in that role typically? What are some of the biggest successes? What metrics do they track? Right? So how do you know whether you're doing a good job or not? And what are your boss's priorities? And I try to get people to understand that if you figure that out, like if you go at any level, if you figure out what you want to do and you really understand what they do for a living every day, then finding that experience in your background is not hard. And making yourself a best candidate is not difficult. And if you figure that information out through like informational interviews, talking to people in those jobs, then you have mentors that will open doors, especially in the veteran community, which is by far the strongest community on LinkedIn. So, I think I just wandered around a little bit on that. But I mean, really, it's about humility and putting in the work to figure out what you want to do and how to make yourself a best candidate. And I've never seen a transitioning service member like genuinely put in legitimate effort into their transition and not land in a good role. It's the ones that wait till the last minute or are waiting for someone to find them and give them a job like we've been throughout our military career, or just assume that they know everything because they were a commander or a command sergeant major, or command master chief, whatever. Those are the ones that really struggle, and it could take years for them to kind of get back to where they were.
You said a word that started with H. What's that? Humility. That's the one. I think a lot of people, when they do come out with lofty, after having so much responsibility and a lofty title, that some of that is missing.
Yeah.
So your transition perspective is, you've kind of solidified that into a business. What do you want to talk to us a little bit about HireMilitary and what that mission is?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I have to talk the path to HireMilitary first.
Then please.
So I went to that job fair, got punched in the gut and said, all right, I got to do something differently. Thankfully, I got on LinkedIn, and I know we talked about AI later, but it was like that scene from The Matrix where like the guy's looking at the screen, you see the characters all coming down, and he's like, what do you see? He's like, I see characters. He's like, well, I see this, I see this. I mean, it made sense to me that I could find people anywhere in the country, any business, any industry, any location. I could get in on search, find people I have something in common with, which is typically being a veteran, and just reach out and ask for advice and help. And there was no limits to how often I could do it. So I was able to use that to network over the course of a year, and I found a great first job. I was a director of workforce management, a small federal IT company that grew to 500 people too fast. And so the CEO brought me in for coffee and was like, I need leadership. I need this. I'm going to create a role for you. So great. I take that job. I found the yellow brick road, like I found success right out of the gate. I got 1 month of double dipping. And then like 2 months in, I started getting messages from other people in the service because I was already active on LinkedIn. And they had applied for an internship program, and it had really thought under DoD SkillBridge or Army Career Skills Program, they were going to have these internships. They put all their eggs in that basket. And it didn't happen. They didn't get it. There was like 60 of them. And so I had like 5 or 10 of them reach out to me and say, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, well, go get your own internship. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, find a company that wants to bring you on for 3 to 4 months full time without paying salary or benefits. And then process your own paperwork. And then they started asking questions. I realized, well, oh crap. Service members don't understand the Fair Labor Standards Act. They don't know who to talk to at companies or explain the program or talk about how to onboard them or anything else like that. And I realized that companies didn't know how to use SkillBridge because it's done differently in every branch of service, and they don't have access to bases, and the population is different. It's almost like SkillBridge is working despite the services efforts. And I don't say that in a mean way. Like, despite the Department of Defense, I mean, it's still working. But I told them this back in like late 2017 or very, very early 2018. And they're like, well, I don't know how to do that. And so that was where the vision came up for HireMilitary. Well, I'm going to fill that gap. I'm going to create something that allows service members and companies to find each other and process internships and a small fee so that we could run the business. And I did that. I bootstrapped that while I was working at the first company, and then I outgrew that role and moved over to Ernst & Young as a senior manager. So I was an executive at EY, still bootstrapping. So I was working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks to do both. And so HireMilitary started to grow. I've been at EY for about 2.25 years. I loved it, but I realized that wasn't where my passion was. I was still teaching the community, still engaging. And so I made a decision to go over and do HireMilitary full-time. And so our first year, we broke 7 figures. Our second year, we doubled that, and we've been doubling since. So what we do, though, is we do the DoD SkillBridge piece. So service members or companies want to connect with each other for opportunities. We use our platform to do that. We've got companies that post opportunities, and service members can apply to join our talent network or apply to those jobs. And they go through a full interview process so that they can find these SkillBridge internships. We had a 97% hire rate last year, or offer rate out of the internships last year, which is fantastic. And then we realized the space was getting a little crowded. We were only hitting about 10% of the entire population. And so we moved over to do direct placements, and now we do jobs. We realized that we were missing out on military spouses, the most economically disadvantaged group in the entire United States, at 24% unemployment. So we added that. And then we realized we're a service-disabled veteran-owned small business, and there's a lot of opportunity for us to help the government. So we started doing government contracts. And so I will tell you, it's been a roller coaster. Being an entrepreneur and not having a lot of investors have been doing it. The only reason it's worked is we solve problems when we see them. Here's a problem, we're going to go fix it. We have a great team that believes in it. And really, honestly, it's been our network. We've built relationships and trust at scale from me and my company. So the vast majority of our business comes to us because people trust HireMilitary and they trust me. And so a very long answer. I know, I'm sorry, but that's really the story of how HireMilitary came about.
So it is HireMilitary.com.
HireMilitary.us.
.us.
Yeah, somebody stole it, and you know how that works. You got to pay them a lot of money to get it back. So somebody had gotten it before. Well, they didn't steal it. They had it before I had the idea. But I got the US one. So and a couple others.
Remember that, Alphas, you need to go to HireMilitary, and it's hire as in get a job, not the Air Force's AIM point. Hire HIRE military.us.
Yep.
Actually, got a follow up to that, or are you going in a whole new direction? Well, actually, he answers so comprehensively. There are no follow ups. What
This
else
is
could
why
you ask?
this is why I'm friends with Mike. This is why I know Mike. I watch Mike. This is why it's been such a pleasure to watch him grow. I think what you said, there's a lot of pearls of wisdom there. Enough to at least, make a strand of adorn my neck with all of the pearls of wisdom, right? There's just so many things. I would say initially, I think it's really tough for transitioning veterans to lean into the entrepreneurial space. There's a lot of unknowns. It takes a lot of planning. And I think one of the other things is, how do you manage to get your foot in the door and feel confident, but also recognize that you're not in the C-suite level. I've seen service members who do their, minimum first contract, right? They do an extension, they do their 20 years. And it's hard to make that transition because you're like, I have all these things. But it's really easy to get pigeonholed, I think, with employment and not understanding how the barriers of entry. So you can rise up in that organization because people look at you like, oh, you've got all this great stuff. I either see the extremes, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here. I see folks who get into these really high level positions very quickly based on, here's my criteria and data. And then those folks, it's like Icarus, they fly too close to the sun, or they go too close. And the ones who are flying they're just so hard to find.
Yeah.
And then the folks who maybe did 1 or 2 contract, maybe 8, less than 10 years, making that switch into another industry, or even articulating that, hey, I did all this stuff, but trying to find a job that wants to pay me the same amount I was making or a little bit more. Like, that's really hard in negotiation. So I guess I'll move slightly in a different direction, but how would you, or what advice would you give to veterans, particularly those who maybe are interested in the trades or interested in doing something completely different than what they did in the military, whether they were 20 years or 10 years or 5 years? What advice would you give those folks?
So, and I want to go back to the entrepreneurship after this question, if you don't mind. I want to talk about that for a second and some of that, but ultimately, my advice always goes back to talk to people in that job, right? Everything transition related for me is, have you spoken to people that have been where you want to go? Because there's a lot of advice out there, and you'll never see me give advice on being successful in tech or in the medical industry or the trades, because I don't know how to do any of that. I talk about networking. I can talk about like Big Four consulting, staffing, stuff like that, because that's where I've been. So I really tell people, reach out and talk to people that have been in that industry, that have been at the level you want to join. And when you talk to them, it's not about talking about yourself. Like, they should be doing more of the talking. You should be asking them questions, asking follow-up questions to get below the initial answer, right? That's the important part. The initial answer is usually pleasantries. If you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of something, you have to ask follow-up questions. And once you talk to enough people, you'll know whether you want to do that job or not. And then, if they like you, which means they've talked more than you have, and you say thank you a lot, then they'll be like, hey, let me connect you to this person. So that's what I would give to people that want to get into any trades. And I included in the trades now, the IT field as well. There's a lot of people going to boot camps, certs, everything else like that. And I talk to them, I have to ask them, like, who in that field that's been in that job had told you to go get those certs or go get that degree or whatever. And they're like, I'm like, so did the college tell you? They're getting paid out of it. Of course they're going to tell you, so, and that's not a knock on colleges, but I just want, before you invest all this time, money, and effort into something, and whether it be a boot camp, an apprenticeship, or whatever, like, do some darn research to figure out if you really want to do that. I talk to people that have like PhDs, 2 masters, whatever, and they're like, I don't want to do any of that. And I'm like, why didn't you ask ahead of time? Right. So that's my, like that. And our community, I want to go back to this. Our community is everywhere. And when we talk about networking, we talk about reaching out to strangers. The reason that we're so active and we're so supportive of one another is that the strands that tie us together, having served, and I talk about service members, veterans, and military spouses, because God knows military spouses serve. Some people say, oh, I don't serve, I mean, come on. The military wouldn't exist without our spouses. So the strands that tie us together, that service, so much stronger than we worked at the same company, or we attended the same college, or we were both scouts, right? And so for the most part, if you reach out to a veteran or a military spouse in industry, and ask them just for a little bit of advice, they're going to be happy to get on a call for 10, 15 minutes. And I'll tell you what, let me give you guys a little bump, join the American Legion or some of those other names. I can't seem to remember them right now, but there's some other organizations out there, but you're filled with veterans at there's an ultimate networking tool right there. Right. So the key is just to leverage people in the community to do your due diligence and then choose the right path. But I don't want to forget the entrepreneurship question.
But can I kind of
go right in
asking that? Because I will say that, and this is a rare moment where I kind of disagree with Ashley a little bit. I don't think for veterans specifically entrepreneurship is hard. I think entrepreneurship is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Just in general. I remember, and I have a traditional regular education as well. In as my mother will tell me, the unemployable field of economics at an undergraduate level. You almost have to get a PhD. Mm-hmm. You'll never hear someone say, I have a bachelor's in economics, and they're on TV talking about the next big thing.
Right.
So I took a certification class. It was geared towards veterans years ago at USC about entrepreneurship and business planning. And it was, to me, it was better than college. It focused on what we needed to do for a set goal. Nobody took that because they were looking for a title of education, right?
Right.
You weren't going there for a bachelor's or master's because you weren't getting one. The certificate by itself is worth almost nothing.
Right.
So they were there to get specific information on what they needed to do for what they wanted to do, to your point, Michael. So what other, I'm trying to lead into what you want to talk about with that. I should just say, what do you want to say about entrepreneurship?
I mean, we're on the same page for this. Look,
Let's let you go.
I mean, how many businesses fail within the first couple of years, right?
Yeah.
There's a ton of them, and it's easy to understand why. I will tell you, had I tried to go into the business right out of the military and do it full time, I would have failed and failed hard. I didn't have the business acumen and, to actually run a business, and I didn't know how to sell. And what I mean by sell, it's not like I'm going to email everybody, spammy messages and say, can you buy my stuff, or buy my stuff all the time on my page. A lot of times I had companies reaching out, like my first year and a half, I can't tell you how many speaking engagements I went to where I didn't ask for money. And companies will take free all day. They don't expect it, but they'll take free. And so I realized, well, crap, I need to ask for money. Like, why am I doing this for free? And they were like, sure. How much? $5,000? Sure. 10 grand. Here you go. And I'm like, crap, how much meat did I leave on the bone? But I mean, and it's not just that, it's the business, doing processing internships for companies for free in the beginning. Nobody expects it for free, right? So I had to learn all of these things. And so thankfully in the beginning, we bootstrapped. I lost money the first 3 years, before it was a full-time business, just we were doing placements, I was doing speaking engagements, and everything plus my leftover money and savings went to managing the business, just to build something, to build the platform, the accounting, make sure people got paid, taxes. I mean, it was not fun. But the year at my first company, I dove into the business development side. Even though it was my business, I volunteered to help on contracts, to sit in on meetings, pricing, everything else like that. So I got enough there to move over to EY, and EY gave me like your certification course, kind of like a graduate degree in business development, because I'm around all these incredible consultants that have been doing it for years. And, I could ask questions, and I network for a living. Like, that's my secret, like my superpower is kind of like networking. And so I was able to talk to all these people and ask questions. But even after 2.25 years at EY, when I left, we wouldn't have been able to grow with the acumen that I had in that time. So I brought in a business partner. I'd met someone at my first company, and she was a lot younger than me, and a lot smarter than me. And so, I asked her for help initially, and then, we started working together, and then I said, hey, let's do this together, because I have the relationships, I have the ideas, I have, some of the knowledge. I could be the face of the brand, but when it comes to scaling a company to where we want it to go, when it comes to building processes, when it comes to the program and project management aspect of it, when it comes to HR, pricing, contracts, legal, like there's so much that, because I've only been in industry for 3 years, like I don't have that experience. And I'm still every day learning from her and from the rest of my team. And so I will tell you, Shannon is, the power behind the growth. And then my director of talent acquisition, Lucy, is the reason we've been able to expand into other platforms. And Olivia on social media gave us a new voice. And, Dana and Krista, and I could name all the teams. Like, I had an idea, I got it running, and then I think we just keep bringing in people smarter than I am that really do all the incredible things at company, that build the culture and everything else like that. And so, I will share that you've got to bring in the right people. I made a couple hires that didn't quite work out the way I thought it would in the beginning. That really set us back. You've got to be smart on contracts and business. I did a couple things that and didn't get things documented, and ended up costing 6 figures, which hurts. On handshakes. And I did a lot of work for something, and it wasn't their fault. It just, like, something went sideways, and we lost a lot of money off of that. And so I'm learning, I learned from my mistakes. But the idea is, knowing that I don't know all that, bring in the right people that don't make those mistakes and trust them to do their job. And then I just have to keep having ideas and building relationships and supporting the team the best I can, grow, really focusing on vision and getting smarter on the business side. And so that's my thing on entrepreneurship. I mean, and I will say, for anyone that wants to go into entrepreneurship, and I add, a lot of people have this idea of starting a nonprofit. You have to be financially sound enough to weather this, right? I know my screen, I got to start over here, but like, it is a roller coaster ride. There's the times you don't get paid. There's the times where people are paying late. There's the salaries that you're paying. Whatever you want. A nonprofit is just a business that can't make a lot of money and pay. They don't pay taxes. They still have to have a business model. They still have to bring in revenue. There still has to be a return on investment for the companies that donate. Like, it's just a different business model. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to weather those things. And if I had not had that job at EY to get us to a certain point, we would have failed spectacularly. And I'll tell you, it's still a roller coaster ride. There's more ups than downs, but I mean, I wonder if that's why my hair left me a little sooner than I expected it. So, so sorry, it's a long story. It is incredibly rewarding. It's not a decision to be made lightly. You've got to go in smart, and you've got to be surrounded by the right people.
I think I think entrepreneurship kind of fits with the way we do things. You have a mission, you have to learn how to pivot and do all the things like that. I was fortunate. I grew up with an entrepreneurial mother who ran a chemical distribution firm and all of that.
But it's not a chemical distribution firm, is it?
Yeah.
Like,
No,
you know,
Like air
That's what I
quoting
told-
it.
yeah, but do you know why I'm
Part of
saying?
the
like,
Michigan
it
mafia.
sounds like she said she had a drug trade.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what
I've
I told
never heard it
my-
called that before.
That's what I told my captain when because I had a nice car. And I was kind of a bougie. I was a bougie Marine, and we
Okay.
pulled up in the in the gas station, and he goes, he said, "What the hell are you doing? You sell drugs?" And I said, "No, but my mom does." So anyway, so I had, sorry, no, but my mom does, comma, sir. I'm very respectful, even when I'm being an ass. So I had that example. Then also, you would love this guy, but I can't remember his name. I met him years and years ago at a Burbank Chamber of Commerce event. Burbank, California, by the way. In case
Oh, I was like Herbis.
yeah, because unless there's one in Idaho, I don't know about. But he was a dentist. And to your point of not talking about himself, or he's a very successful dentist, never told me what he did. But he called me over and he said, "Hey, you look like you're kind of new to the chamber thing, kind of young. They give you some advice." And he told me, "Don't talk about yourself." He goes, "This is what I do, and I built my business. I don't have business cards on me." He said, "What I do is I talk to people, and like, so Michael, you build widgets, right? And Ashley, you own a store that sells things like his widgets, and I just go on about my business, and eventually I introduce Michael to Ashley, and then I walk away. Invariably, those people go, who the hell is this guy that keeps introducing people and going on in a very humble way and just walking away from, he's done his job." And they ask about him. They ask the chamber staff about, like, who is that guy? And they find out he's a dentist, and now all of a sudden he's everybody's dentist because he cared more about them than he cared about himself. At least that's what he projected. I'm assuming it was genuine.
That is the core of sales. And this is something I teach in a lot of my classes is we buy from whom we trust, and trust comes from relationships, right? Like they could go to any dentist out there, right? Why did they pick him? Because he built trust, right? He built a relationship with them. And so of course you're going to choose that person. And it goes for everything out there. And that's where, you know, when you go to branding, when you go about sharing yourself and your life and everything, when it comes to social media and everything else like that, you know, why do companies come to HireMilitary? Why do people come to me? It's because they've seen me over and over and over again. They see my story, they see my passion, they see my content, or somebody refers them to me that they trust. And that trust, you know, those relationships lead to trust. And then when they think about it, like, hey, we need to hire veterans, let's reach out to Mike, or let's reach out to HireMilitary, or hey, we need somebody to bring us to support us on this government contract. Well, let's reach out to Mike. Like his company does this. They got a ton of veterans, right? But the problem is a lot of people want to do the easy button. They just want to spam you like, hey, buy this, or hey, do this, or hey, I'd love to connect. And it's like, you never looked at my profile. I can't tell you how many people send me notes on LinkedIn wanting to help me expand my LinkedIn presence. And I'm like, you never looked at my profile. I have 370,000 followers. Like, I'm like, I have more than your company and all your employees put together. And it's not meant to be, but I'm trying to tell them, like, stop spamming people, share successes, share your life, share who you are. And if people trust you, they're going to trust your business because you wouldn't be there otherwise. But it takes time to build relationships. It takes effort. And it's the same thing for the job seekers. Don't send your resume and say, what do you have for my skill set? Like, ask for advice, say thank you. You talk to them, follow up if they give you something. Like if they tell you, hey, read this book, you really want their help, go read the dang book. And a week later say, oh my God, Mike, I read the book. It's amazing. I learned XYZ. You know what? You're coachable. You're going to invest time. You're going to put in the elbow grease. Who do you want to be interested? Who do you want to be introduced to in industry? Because I love you. You listen to my advice. But I give so much advice out to people. People want phone calls, introductions, jobs, and I never do it without talking to them first and giving them something to do and waiting for them to come back to me and say, I did it. Because otherwise, what's the point, right? They're not going to do it. I just wasted an hour of my life.
There you go. Wow. So that's all actionable advice, except reading a book in a week. Not me.
Cliff notes. I mean, they're not going to know if you actually read the book. You just have to that's how I got my degree. They wanted me to read like Huck Finn, and I just looked up 2 chapters on Cliff Notes and quoted that. Don't tell Excelsior, but I mean, you just have to. I mean, at the end of the day, if we're going to put our names on the line for someone, there has to be a qualifying factor. If we don't know you, and there's, we've got to know that you're worthwhile. I made an introduction once to somebody 2 levels below Elon Musk. They wanted someone for a mid, 150s job. It was a beautiful job. And I just introduced to them somebody that was known to somebody I trusted. And I didn't talk to him first. And I got a call saying, why did you introduce me to this clown? What are you doing? And I'm mortified. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. What did they say? And they told me, I'm like, there's my credibility gone. And so now we have to triage. In this community with 240,000 people coming out every year, we have to triage who we're going to spend our time on. And it's not personal. It's not mean. It's the reality, and I talk to generals. I teach every general and admiral, every branch of service, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard, Space Force. I spent 3 hours in General Milley's house in January. So I get them in their transition courses. And even for them, before I invest time in them, I tell them to do something. And if they don't do it and come back to me, most do, but they didn't need it. So they were good on their own. So it applies across the board. We just want to make sure that you are grateful for the help we're giving you, because we're used to intrusive leadership in the military. And we want to make sure that you're going to put in the work, that you value our advice enough to do it when we tell you. Sorry, I took it off on a total tangent.
No, that was insightful. And I echo that sentiment. Sometimes it's not necessarily about who you know, but who knows you.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a formula that a mentor gave to me, actually, probably 2018 timeframe when I was out in DC for the first time. It was like the 3/4 rule. When building relationships, you never ask for anything up front, right? That person doesn't know you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you continue to develop the relationship, and it doesn't even have to be about work or just it's about being authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And is this person someone I have a connection with? Do we have the same mission, values? You determine those things through the course of the 3 interactions.
Mm-hmm.
And the 4th interaction, if it's so appropriate, right? You got to be the judge of that. You can make that ask, but I mean, you got to also, figure out how big is that ask, right? Or if the relationship needs to develop further, are you willing to have a relationship with somebody over the course of a few years to really understand if that person's a good business partner, right? Or if that person is going to help you, or because you never know where people are going to end up. I've had a lot of colleagues in the National Capital Region that have ascended to different levels. And I'm just like, wow, I'm impressed. It's amazing that I have these relationships. But that takes time. And most folks don't want to do the work preemptively before they get out, as you stated. And then once you kind of get into that settling phase, it's how do you maintain those relationships while also trying to balance other things?
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of really great advice. I think the formula works. And
I'm going to steal that if you don't mind. I wrote it down. There's a formula. I'm going to make a formula out of it. That's really about how much do you have in common with the person, legitimately have in common?
Mm-hmm.
How much of a connection is there? And then how big of the ask is there? How big is the ask? There's some kind of mathematical formula there that you can kind of capture that will like kind of tell you what are the chances that they're ready to say yes.
Well, we can talk offline because I've already
You can
done that
illu-
for you.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
All right. Offline. So that means she's got a business model on it. I like it. But
It works. It really works. And I stress that. And I know what you've done for the community and being, not only just on LinkedIn as a voice, but it's so critical for people to hear not just the light and fluffy stuff, the superficial, but the knit grit, like the hard truths, right? That gut punch you were stating earlier, you got when you went to that recruiting fair, like that comes in different waves for people and at different transition points in their lives. Like you may have already been out and you're trying to transition into new industry. All rules apply. It doesn't change. It's just a matter of like your paradigm and if you're willing to make that switch.
And I'll add, and I know, sorry, Jeff, you want to get, are you cut? Are we over time or can I go real quick?
Oh, we're into 3 episodes now.
Okay, good. So the only thing that goes along with that is I think that as a society, we're still learning how interconnected we are and how to work on social media, right? And I think some of the issues with society right now are based off of the majority of us not really understanding that social media connects us, but it's not like that you have to understand there's a human being on the other side of the platform, right? And so the biggest thing I will tell people is if you just, when you talk to people on social media, when you share things on social media, when you engage with them on social media, if you would engage with them with the way you would talk to their face, it's so much of the world would be easier. Like I see things on social media, people say things, they share things, they ask for things. And I'm like, you would never do that to someone's face. Like I'm a big guy. Like I'm a pretty big guy. Like, I'm like, I know you would never say that to my face, right? Like I know for a fact you would not say that to my face. And I'm a nice guy. I'm not saying like, and even like, hey, here's my resume. Do you have anything about like, would you walk up to someone that had an army hat on in like Giant Safeway or, at an IndyCar event and say, and say, hey, I noticed you served, you like Indy cars as well. Here's my resume. You got a job for me? No, you wouldn't do that. You'd talk for a few minutes. You get to know them, find out if you have in common. And if it feels good enough, a lot of times, if you mention you're searching, the person on the other end will say like, oh my God, I may know some people, let me help you. And so so much of it's the human element has to be retained. We've got to be able to communicate with one another like people, not like you just fire and forget on the keyboard. So sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I'm going to have a quick comment and then I'm going to take you on a path to continuing to save the world offline.
Okay.
Clearly, you've never lived in Hollywood because people do what you just said all the time.
Yeah.
If an actor meets someone who says they're a casting director or a producer or a director, they whip out their headshot and resume so fast. It's embarrassing. Or a writer will do the same thing. They have a script in there somehow folded in their back pocket, but they get it out and it's ironed and pristine, and they give it to whoever will listen to it. And it's a perfect example of what you're talking about because it never works. Like they don't know you. You're overwhelming them. You're invading their space when they're not working instead of networking. That's
right.
That's clever. I like that.
And I'll make my mom proud. When you figure out your formula, I'll make a very pretty little graph and we'll come up with the equilibrium of the relationship versus the ask. And yeah, we're going to live in that. I'm going to do something with an undergraduate degree in economics. That's if you put it on your LinkedIn, it's published. All
right. 1099 right there. Jeff Daly.
That's a big dub. That's a big dub for me.
And I'm not doing the formula right now. I just heard Ashley already did it. So like, I'm not a recreate the wheel kind of guy.
You gotta check her math sometimes though. I mean,
hey, whoa.
She probably had Chat GPT help her. So you really gotta
listen. Okay. If we're going to get into that real quick, I'm just saying there are opportunities to summarize. And I like that it can aggregate different points of research with links. So like when I'm looking up, I don't know, entrepreneurial blah, blah, blah for this, and this, and policies, it helps me stay informed. And I like to get in arguments with ChatGPT because I like to,
You like to
see.
argue.
Yeah, you said it, not me.
Oh,
Beat me
this is
to it.
unreal. You
I
know what?
wouldn't-
That's fine.
No, I would have
Whatever.
never said that. I would have
I
never
am
said that,
disagreeable.
Ashley.
I am assertive and disagreeable on certain topics. And I like to see all of the points of view. So when I go and argue or debate or negotiate, I know all the facts. And then I can also,
I prefer to just discuss. Anyway, I won't go on and on about how you're using Chat GPT to replace you. And so when you're doing those summaries, somebody else could just have the computer do it for them later. Anyway, so Michael, it has been awesome and a pleasure. But before you go, can you tell us the top places to find you, find your work, and what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn. So Michael Quinn. So that's pretty easy right there. I have a bunch of resources on my page, an Ultimate LinkedIn cheat sheet, a beginner's guide to LinkedIn. I also have a link to our YouTube page. We have a HireMilitary YouTube page that has about 45 informational interviews with people in industry. So if someone is slick, they could watch those. And if they like them, reach out to the person that volunteered to do the interview and say, hey, I watched your interview. Do you got a few minutes? They're going to say yes.
Yeah.
Then our HireMilitary company page on LinkedIn, we do LinkedIn Lives every Tuesday at 2 p.m. where my team gets on and talks about job seeker challenges, current jobs they're sourcing for. They give everybody a great way to connect the network. And every other Thursday, Lucy Robinson and I do kind of a little bit like what you, Jeff, and Ashley are doing, kind of like a yin and yang, Jekyll and Hyde type LinkedIn audio event. Lucy's got a British accent. She's an Air Force spouse. So no matter what she says, it always sounds nice.
Right.
And I'm from Philly. So no matter what I say, it always sounds crass. So it somehow works. So that's the other one. And then I would tell everyone, go to the HireMilitary.us website. You can do our talent pool for SkillBridge interns. You could join our talent pool for jobs. You can check our job board or our SkillBridge internship boards. And then a secret that I'm hoping to not make a secret is we've been putting out a lot of fantastic articles. We have a newsletter on LinkedIn that also goes to our page. So there's about 15 or 20, I think, incredible professional articles and everything from how to interview, how to prepare for a job, how to find a job, how to figure out what you want to do. There's one for military spouses on how to network. And my team has done an incredible job putting those resources together. So I would say you can go to the HireMilitary.us website, just go ahead and click job seeker resources and you'll be amazed by what they put together.
All right. Thanks so much. I'm gonna recommend that the alphas go to those places to get the resources because I'm union and we have to I have to go on my break here in a second. We have to but thank you so much for being here. Thanks for all of the pearls that Ashley is now wearing as jewelry. I didn't know wisdom was earrings and bracelets and things like that. But
They're
good for you. Good for
tokens.
You.
They're talismans.
I hear and honor the words that you have to say.
That's so great.
That's the most Californian thing I've ever said.
Wow. We have it recorded.
He's making up for the other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm aware. I didn't forget.
Speaking of, everyone goes to Equalizer 3, where one Marine takes on the entire Sicilian Mafia, as I've told you before. This is going to be amazing. I renamed the movie Fair Fight. So there you go. So thank you, Michael Quinn. Thank you for all that you're doing and all that you continue to do and all that you've offered here to the alphas of Tango Alpha Lima. For you alphas, before you go down the rabbit hole of becoming the next Titan in a C-suite, go take a break, and then we're going to come back and recap a little bit of what Michael's talked about here today. We'll see you in a bit after your break. That was awkward, but take your break and we'll see you. I need to take one too, obviously.
The American Legion is raising awareness about PTSD and veteran suicide by offering hope, camaraderie, and support.
Be the one to help end veteran suicide.
The goal of the American Legion's Be the One campaign is to destigmatize asking for mental health support.
Be the one to ask a veteran in your life how they're doing.
Be the one who saves one veteran.
Go to betheone.org and help the American Legion end veteran suicide.
Will you be the one?
Woo! That was a lot of information. I'm going to have to rewatch this 10 times, and I suggest all of you do that as well. On this first time through, Ashley, do you have any takeaways?
I think Mike Quinn is an incredible human being who has been a very active and leading voice in the military connected community for several years now. And I'm really excited for all of his entrepreneurial endeavors. And I think as people listen, they need to, they really need to listen up and realize and figure out what it is they want to do and do the preparatory work, follow through just as you would in the military. There's a lot of lessons in this past conversation that I think are applicable regardless of where you're at in your transition stage in life. So very, very sage advice.
Outstanding. To me, that's a lot of information. I haven't even processed it yet. So I don't know what my takeaways are other than networking. And to me, the way he explains it is kind of how I approach it. You don't go into networking with an outcome in mind. You go into networking with people in mind, and you associate yourself with good people, and then good things will happen to you. Now, right now, in this place, right here, in this moment, we are about to embark on a journey to the range of ideas and thoughts, a firing range, if you will. And we're going to get into now rapid fire. And we never miss, by the way. Our accuracy is spot on. All right, rapid fire number 1, Thrive. Ashley, do you know about Thrive, or is this going to be new to you?
No more.
Okay. Helping veterans and employees find happiness is from VA News. Thrive is a clinical program that was developed at the VA for veterans and staff members alike. Thrive aims to bring happiness to healthcare through the delivery of transformational workshops. The multifaceted clinical program applies evidence-based principles, including positive psychology, whole health, motivational interviewing, and acceptance and commitment therapy concepts. Unlike traditional reactive healthcare approaches, Thrive proactively guides veterans and VA employees through a series of clinical workshops. These workshops explore the sense of purpose, self-esteem, whole health, and life satisfaction. All right, there's the series. It's a 14-week series, and it covers 12 topics: mental health, financial health, nutrition, spirituality, stress reduction, and more. Thrive also recognizes the importance of community, which is why the program's group format allows veterans to connect with each other and develop supportive networks. There's some data. It shows significant improvements in veterans' mental health, a 28% decrease in depression, 29% decrease in anxiety, and 25% improvement in life satisfaction. I think I want all of those things. That's my take. I want all of those.
All the things.
Though, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
all the things.
In 14 weeks? College was 12. I mean, a quarter in college was 10 weeks. I didn't get all of this. I'm kind of disappointed. I need to sign up. I need to thrive. We do have someone from the VA here with us on the screen right here.
Well, I'm not representing the VA, to be very clear.
Okay. Well, not in your opinion, but maybe with a fact. I couldn't find how to sign up for this. Do you know where I can go?
I'm looking for it too.
So you're going to have to look in the show notes, my friends, so that you can find Thrive. I'm assuming West LA VA Medical Center, being one of the largest, is going to have this. I mean, they have to, right?
So based on what I'm seeing on VA News, this program's been adopted at 60 VA medical centers to date. So it's likely that would be something you would need to ask within, say you're there at an appointment, you can ask. I'm sure in the show notes we can find probably a better direct link, but Thrive is a clinical program developed for VA, for the veterans and staff members, right? So it's based on a model that's, I want to say, I'm looking at this article real quick on VA News, and we'll include that in the show notes as well. But the VHA Innovation Ecosystem Fellowships empower VA employees for strategic guidance and relationship development. So I do believe that this is connected. So the program to grow and thrive is on a national scale. And the national director for Thrive is also a Navy veteran here that I'm reading, which is pretty cool. So they've been already receiving change agent awards and IT innovation awards, which is pretty neat. Yeah, all you need to know is that Thrive is a multifaceted program and addresses well-being for both veterans and VA employees. That's it. Then
Holly just wants us to know that one of the 60 that you said exists are in Tampa. I don't know why that's so important. Tampa?
Okay.
For both of our listeners in Tampa, you can find Thrive at your VA. Boom. There we go. Rapid fire number 2. Legion Post educates how to be the one with the VA S.A.V.E training. This is from the American Legion.org, the world's finest journalistic operation. Yes. When Dean Erk, okay, it's E-R-C-K, just so I thought that was missing a letter. I called him Eric. When Dean Erk returned home from the American Legion's 103rd National Convention in Milwaukee last August, he turned his focus to how he and his Legion Post could answer National Commander Vincent J. Jim Troiola's call to be the one. Just like the race car at the national level, John B. Lyman, American Legion Post 904 in Alexandria Bay, New York, was going to draw eyes to the issue to destigmatize someone struggling, asking for help, said Erk, Post 904 Adjutant and Service Officer. To answer the call to be the one, Post 94 recently held a VA S.A.V.E training class at the post home. The acronym stands for S, signs of suicidal thinking should be recognized. A, ask the most important question of all, are you thinking of killing yourself? V, validate the veteran's experience. E, encourage treatment and expedite getting help. The training reviews the scope of veteran suicide within the United States, how to identify a veteran who may be at risk for suicide, and then what to do when you identify a veteran who may be at risk for suicide, said Caitlin Treadway, Community Engagement and Partnership Coordinator for Watertown VA Community-Based Outpatient Clinic in New York, who taught the training. I want this. I've been screaming about this since the first Be the One mention. I want something actionable that people can do. And this reminds me a lot of the mental health first aid training that I arranged at my post like 3 or 4 years ago. We got a grant, so it didn't cost us anything. I'm assuming this training class is something that your post service officer would learn how to do and facilitate it. I don't think it's going to cost anything. But S.A.V.E. I want a training class. I want a poster with those 4 things. I want action. I want to give people a way to be the one.
Do you know what VA S.A.V.E training stands for?
Signs of suicidal thinking should be recognized. No, not this.
No. You're doing great. Keep going. A is ask the most important questions for all. V is validate the veteran's experience, and E is encourage treatment and expedite getting help. So that's what the acronym. Those are like the cool little.
I did know that because I just read it.
Yeah, well, just.
You don't think I listen to myself? I love me.
All right. No, I was, I'm trying to get some, some feedback.
I love me a lot.
I'm always trying to make sure you're paying attention to, bud.
paying attention to myself.
Humility. Sorry, we'll bring it all the way back around here.
All right, there's a one pager. There's a link to a one page thing in the show notes. That is printable. You can put that up in your posts out there. I do again. I had a difficult time finding where to actually get the training. So we won't do a live search here on air, but hopefully we can get that information to super producer Holly and post haste so that we can get that out there. Because I love this. When you finish, you should get a certificate that says, I'm the one. Come to me. All right. Rapid fire number pew, pew, pew. 3. Connecticut World War II veteran gets high school diploma 80 years later. This is from Stars and Stripes. John Sample does not have much in common with those graduating from Berlin High School in Connecticut this year. The World War II veteran, 99, has lived a full life, serving overseas in the military, then caring for a family while working as a crane operator. But this year, the class of 1941 member finally received his diploma. I finally got it, Sample said. It only took a couple of years. It's a big honor. I've never had an honor like this. It feels beautiful. Sample received his high school diploma more than 80 years after dropping out of school to serve his country in the U.S. Navy, a decision which allowed him to sail the world aboard the aircraft carrier USS Vogue. The veteran, who will turn 100 in October, has been awarded the Presidential Unit Citation, American Theater Ribbons, and Asiatic Pacific Ribbons, and World War II Victory Medal for his service in the war.
Wow.
And now he's a high school graduate. It's like these days, you can't drop out of school and join the Navy. You have to.
Yeah.
Well,
Nada.
If he dropped out super early, he wasn't even 18, right? Because it said it took him a couple of years to catch back up to get his. So does that mean, did he drop out as a? You can't do that. That's illegal.
I don't see any photos either. I want a photo. I want to see a picture of this man.
With his classmates?
Yeah.
Well, we can do that. We can do that later, but I need your help right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need your help to get us, unless you have a final thought or shout out on this holiday of 7-Eleven.
To consumers everywhere. Don't forget to subscribe to the Tango Lima podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are consuming your podcast. Please leave us a review and give us a big old 5-star rating so that the world knows how much you love us. If you do have a guest recommendation, go to legion.org/Tango Alpha Lima and click on the suggest a guest link. And we look forward to hearing from you.
All right. I want to acknowledge what I'm considering a new holiday. This is called S.E.V.E. Day on 7-Eleven every year. I want you to walk into your 7-Eleven and just time it properly to when they're throwing away overcooked meats of undescribable in an undescribable condition. And I would like you to enjoy one, at least in the moment, knowing that in 20 to 30 minutes, it will come back to haunt you. And that is the experience of S.E.V.E. holiday. And you cannot celebrate the day without going to a 7-Eleven or other convenience store and consuming something that people would caution you against consuming. And with that, I'm going to declare season 4, episode 167 mission complete. Oh, you're still here. Well, let me bring up a couple things for you that we may have missed. I don't know if you've noticed, but we've had an Ashley shift these last 4 weeks. Ashley, have we acknowledged that you're the OG AG and you've been sitting here?
I would hope that my words would be echoing and you would. Yeah, I don't even know what to say to that.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and tell us where you're going to be next on Legion Screens.
Okay. This is cool. I feel like we're doing a little after school special / Marvel scene here. So I'm doing a few things with the American Legion right now. And one of them is rolling out a military sexual trauma series. Dates soon to be dropped. We will have more information in the upcoming weeks, but it's been an exciting process. I've done some amazing interviews with people from all over, different backgrounds, every possible lens you could apply to this issue, and we've had some great conversations. So it is an exciting opportunity to bring a taboo topic to light and talk about it in a way that enlightens and educates others. So I'm really excited about it. So that's what I've been doing in the background. OG Ashley's been working on some special projects.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. That's good to hear. Good to hear.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're still here though. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know why. Yeah.
they could go home though. All right. So seriously, go. We're done.
Yeah. I'll see you soon.
Super producer, can you just, they're not gonna go, can you just shut them off?
We need to.
Yeah, we gotta go.
Okay. Yeah. We gotta go. All right. Bye.